So in this video we will be discussing about how vectors can be multiplied, added and subtracted. Now say suppose you have a vector v. Now if you multiply a scalar quantity, what actually happens is that you are adding to the magnitude of the vector, adding to the magnitude of the vector. So now what we know is that, say suppose this is a vector v and this is its magnitude. Say this is its magnitude. So if you multiply a scalar, then what happens is that it becomes scalar times this times the magnitude of the vector, which in turn you can express this as, now this as a whole is another vector. This as a whole is another vector. It's not the same vector that you had before because its magnitude has changed. So now we cannot take del, that is lambda v is not equal to v because thus we have increased its magnitude. So what we have discussed in our previous video is for our vectors to be equal, we need both the magnitude as well as the direction to be same. We can however conclude that the direction of both these two vectors is same because only a scalar has been multiplied. So this is what you can understand by the, it is also known as, in some books you will also come across as scalar multiplication property. So this is what we come to know. It's another new vector. Just to be clear, this is another new vector, del lambda. So now say suppose if you have a vector A, if you multiply this suppose a positive quantity, then this vector will increase its magnitude A lambda. So this is what we mean. So this was about the multiplication of vectors with a scalar. Now let's talk about the addition and subtraction of vectors. Now for addition and subtraction of vectors, we have different kinds of methods. I would like to first introduce you with the graphical method of addition and subtraction. So let's have a look. So if you are looking for subtraction, what you need to do is, say suppose this is your vector A. Now in order to have a vector which is opposite in sign, that is vector minus A, all you need to do is, now say suppose this is your position. This is the way that is you are going. So it has some x coordinate and it has some y coordinate. Now if you take the negative, that is the opposite sign of x and y, what you will have is minus x and minus y. So you will see that minus and minus y comes exactly, that is if you join a straight line, it will come exactly in the opposite direction, which is crossing the origin. That is crossing the origin and it will be exactly in the opposite direction. So from the origin, if you are going and if you are making a line, that is you are going in this direction. Now if you take the exactly opposite sign, that is minus x and minus y, you will see that from the origin you are going to the exactly opposite direction of where you were going in when you are taking the positive values. So in this way, what we can understand is if we need to change a vector, what we can do is we can take the opposite direction of that vector, that is minus a, even though, now keep in mind, the magnitudes will remain the same. The magnitudes will remain the same. Remain the same. So directions are opposite. Directions are opposite. So when you try to think this in this particular way, that is, if this is a, this is minus a. Now by using this concept, if this is a, this would be minus a. Now please keep in mind this will be equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Okay. So now say suppose there are two vectors, vector A and vector B. Now you need to subtract vector B from vector A. That is, subtract vector B from vector A means vector A minus vector B. So now initially try to think this in this way. Try to think vector B if you want to subtract vector A minus vector B. But what I would like to advise or give you a way of thinking is vector A plus minus vector B. This can also be done. So now if, say suppose if this is my vector A and this was my vector B, this was my vector B. So now I will be taking minus of vector B. So this is my minus of vector B, minus of vector B. So now use the same method that we have done, that is, take the tip, take the tail and put it in one of your tips. So this is the tail of vector B, let's put it in the tip of vector A. So if this is my vector A, this is vector A, I'll take the tail and I'll put it over here. This is my vector B, that is minus vector B. Now the resultant vector will be given by vector A plus minus vector B. So this is how subtraction is done. And this is the method that you can apply, or this is the way that you can understand how multiplication, addition and subtraction is done in vectors.